Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and it is, as always, a pleasure to come your way and share these times with you. With so much going on in the world, there's also so much going on inside of each of us. Today, we are going to share this time with a returning guest. I'm very excited to have returning guests and continue our conversations. Today, Toni Ghazi is my guest. He is known as the, if I have this pronunciation correctly, the Antarean-Heart. And we're going to talk today about something that some people might say they understand, that it makes perfect sense, and maybe at one level it does, on that deeper level. But on the surface, it's not possible. And that conversation is going to surround unconditional love. Today, we're going to talk about unconditional love because, unfortunately, there are a lot of situations where it's extremely conditional. There are always conditions. And it's interesting, between human beings, it's conditional. But I'll tell you, there are others on this planet who share their love, and it is unconditional. And that's the animals. We have dogs and a dog and a cat. We have chickens. And I'd have to say that no matter what, we hope we're not ever hurting them or abusing them or taking advantage. But they don't seem to initially, it doesn't matter. They will always show you that love. And Toni, I want to thank you for joining us again and having this conversation. I think it's an important one, especially as we are preparing to enter, I can't believe it, a new year here very soon. It's like my mind is blown too. I joke about this. I say that my calendar, it's not on fire. It's just smoking. It's smoldering because time is moving so fast. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, 64 years of age, and I'll be 65 next year, eligible for Medicare and all of the wonderful things. Yes, exactly. I bow down to you too, my friend. I mean, my mother, she's 90, okay? And in my dedication in my book, Choices, I dedicate my book to my parents for being involved in my life when I've asked and not when I have not asked, and I bow down to them both with honor and love. And it's one of those aspects that I see quite often in my parents and my mother who remains, that unconditional love. And sometimes that unconditional love is real interesting because we don't even show ourselves unconditional love. And a conversation that I had with her once, I was sharing with her, and she said, "Stop, stop. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that." Excuse me. If um, if you want to call for advice or inspiration or some information, this and that and the other thing, wonderful. But I don't want to hear the stories. Now, I was sharing with her a story of what was going on, and it wasn't so great, and this and that and the other. And the more I thought about it, at first glance, I'm going, "Mom, wait a minute. What? What do you mean you don't want to hear it? I mean, I'm your son." Now, this is in my head. But then I thought about it and I realized that she was showing herself love by saying, "I don't want to put that into my brain, into through my ears and so forth." It's also a section in my book where I talk about our personal input. And we don't show ourselves the kind of love that we'd like to think we're showing to other people. The golden rule, for example, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I like to rephrase it. Do unto others as if you were the others. So let's talk. Let's start with start with our conversation about unconditional love. Where, how do you? I guess how do you define? Is there really a way to define unconditional love? I mean, the language is always so incomplete, but talk to us from your perspective.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for having me again. Thank you for your audience for having me too. Always a pleasure. Awesome energy. You ask one of the most amazing questions. When you asked that question, if you look at the camera, I looked on the side because spirits were like, how are you going to answer that? Uh, um, they're like, you're already limited, in nature. How do you describe the infinite, right?
Yeah.
Um, Look, there are many layers. There are many like truly layers like within us that we need to like in a sense like dig deeper and unlayer and like take off a mask after a mask after a mask after a belief system after a layer to get to our unconditionality of love of who we are. And it's funny because like the expression that you mentioned, do unto others as you would do unto you, however that's like
Hmm.
said, is in reality, you're not self-loving yourself to begin with, So we're not trained to know what self-love means, unconditional self. So even that expression that on the surface like sounds so great, if you dissect it, like you realize if I am doing unto myself as I'm doing unto others as I do myself, if you're not self-loving, you don't know how to do that. What you are actually like doing to others is not unconditional love to begin with because you don't know how to do it to yourself, you know?
Mm, mm,
So unconditional love, I don't think our humanity um, will get to a point where we understand like what that means, but there isn't a like destination like in a sense where you say, oh, I understand what unconditional love is. There are layers of that, and there are like different degrees of like knowingness, the best way that I can describe it. But like through the praying mantis beings, like when I channel for people and on stage and through all the sessions, I learn through them because I re-listen like to the recordings because I don't like remember as I'm in the channeled state because I'm in a trance kind of state.
hmm.
So I like re-listen to them like oftentimes to see what words they used and how it was said. But as I'm in the channeling state and I'm in like the state of consciousness, I experience things that words cannot bring back. Like I cannot come back and bring to use words to describe the grander experience I have. But a lot of it is this ever expanding understanding of what love means,
Mm.
that keeps evolving and evolving because in our minds we're so trained there is one unconditional aspect of love. It's so like singular when in reality it's this evolving idea of what love truly means, but on a much easier level without getting into the ether and like consciousness and the infinite that keeps evolving and no destination. Unconditional love really begins, I feel, in redefining who God is, what source is, who you are, who I am, who the trees are, the leaves, the rivers, the wind, planets, animals. Who are they? As a oneness energy. You really have to come to terms that I am not separate than you. I am not separate than the plant. I am not separate than the sun. I am not separate than the wind or the river or the fish or the aliens or the beings or the rock. Everything is consciousness. Even like this little like beautiful thing
Mm-hmm.
is actually consciousness. Um, Even this crystal is actually consciousness. So you really need to go within and begin seeing everything that is exterior outside of you. I mean, like there are many layers, right?
Right.
Uh, that is not exterior outside of you. I am experiencing you. I'm experiencing this laptop, this like lens that I have in front of me, all these things that I have with me, this hat, the
Mm-hmm.
iPhone, as outside of me, as a separate, like from me, because I have a definition system within my field that says somewhere, like within like the program, that I've chosen to experience this reality from a separate perspective.
Yeah.
You know, but you can still experience separation because you're choosing to experience it. At the same time, you have the awareness that I'm also one with everything that appears to be separate,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
And when you begin really realizing that, oh my God, what seems to be separate is not separate, but it's just my divine choice to live with humanity, because as a collective of humans and of souls, or as a collection of these souls, like we call humans, we all decided that we're going to experience separation from this perspective, that we live, on a planet that's called Mother Gaia or Earth, that, oh, if we look out into the stars, we see the sun, we see the moon, we see like, Orion, we see all these like other stuff. We all, as like a collection of souls, have decided on a higher like oversoul level, that our world will appear in such. That's one reality I can experience on the programming of this like oversoul. But also within myself, I can also have a separate awareness and infinite awarenesses of what also is out there that's beyond like that collection, or like the agreement that the collection of the souls have made. And I can begin experiencing like my world from the other awareness that, yes, although I'm experiencing as separate, I have a knowingness that I'm not separate.
Yeah.
So you really have to ask yourself like that question: who am I? Who are the people? Who are all these animals, the sun, the wind, the leaf, etc., etc.? And when you begin or like get to the point where you're able to understand that it's all you playing out those, putting out this costume to be the leaf, to give you that perspective. And it's all really emanating from your heart. Like again, we go to the projection, the projector, our hearts, our heart chakras, our heart center, where we breathe, where the boo 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 boo, the beat of the heart is the projector through the lenses and the definitions and the programming we put, that we experience outside. When you begin to realize that it's you like to begin with, that's when the idea of unconditional love begins deconstructing itself from like the old paradigm that you're separate, and begin reconstructing itself that, wow, when I speak, and I'm getting chills all over my body right now, when I speak of unconditional love, when I see this piece of crystal, I know that this is myself.
Mm-hmm.
When I am speaking to Richard, he is part of me. He is me. When I hear your audience, or like see your audience, or I'm from outside, I see the neighbor, the animals, whatever, they're me. When you begin really vibrating from that like definition system and that like programming, then there's no way on earth you cannot but begin to love the other aspects of yourself. And that is the first layer to begin expanding the idea of what love is. And truly, love is unbounded. And even the idea we say, like, unconditional, is also restricting the idea of what love is. Love is so expansive. You're you, I'm you, like,
Yeah.
And then you add the idea of like judgment, right? How we judge others, it also separates us. So when you begin loving people from that perspective, and seeing also, I mean, there's so many layers, and like seeing also everyone else out there as divine, powerful beings. They are source. There's no victimhood. There's no perpetration. There's no death to begin with. We never die. We're forever living, forever
Hmm.
and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And you just put costumes on and take it off. Put a costume on and take it off. Put a costume on and take it off. So when you begin really like vibrating from that perspective, you add all of those elements. You begin to see the world from a very different perspective as you, and you begin emanating the new vibration of unconditional love that keeps expanding as you evolve and involve yourself and begin seeing your life and other people. And it's just so beautiful. It's so integrative. It brings the pieces back like together to see yourself again as a whole being that you are. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense.
One of the thoughts that just occurred to me is there, and again, I made this comment just before you spoke about language and how inefficient it is, that leaves so many holes, if you will, in what is that we're talking about. Is there any other word in any other language, or is it something that you really can't put words around that describes what we're talking about? And even if we, because even if we speak of unconditional love, we've put something on love. If we choose to stick with the word love, as you kind of spoke of there, we're actually putting a condition on love, even though we're saying, well, but it's unconditional. Yes, but that's a condition. From your experience and from your connection with all of these wonderful divine beings and so forth. My favorites, of course, are both the angels as well as Gaia, Mother Gaia, Ganesh, the seven sisters, and so on and so forth. Oh, and my favorite, the magic leprechauns. Is there any other word or words or phrase that maybe we don't speak the language of, that if we could grok it, I mean, truly grok the word or the concept, maybe that's a better way to put it, assimilating it into every subatomic particle of our being, that then maybe we might understand. It can't be verbalized, it can't even really be shown. It's sort of a, what, an inner knowing. Can you talk to us from the perspective of what you've been given through the channeling that you do on a regular basis with the divine?
Yeah, so look, language to begin with is super restrictive, right? Because again, if we believe that we're infinite beings and we live like forever, like the concept of infinity, our minds cannot wrap around it. We think we understand what infinity is, and I'm an infinite being from a very like small perspective, which also tells you if we're unable to comprehend what infinity is in its true essence, then the words to begin with are very limited, like in nature.
Hmm.
But in Arabic, so I speak Arabic, and I speak several languages because I'm Lebanese. I always felt that the language, and I'm sure other languages are like that too. So, like when we say like hub, like which means love, there's a lot of emotions with the word like itself. I feel like the US language and like perhaps a few other languages, when we say like love, there is energy there, but there is a like missing element of like emotionality. And
Hmm.
the only reason like that I'm saying this, like this is not to say that, oh, like Arabic is a much better language than like this language, or this is not the point, but just to show you that even within like, as we say like the word love and in Arabic, there's emotions attached with the physical words that go beyond even trying to describe it. You have to feel it.
Hmm.
So this is where we go to light language. If you have, if like your audience, like have heard of light language, that's like the language of light, because like we're made of light. That like may sound like gibberish, like in the beginning,
Right.
and just all these sounds and tones. But this is where like sound comes in. This is where vibration comes in, allows you to expand that word into more than the restrictive aspect, of the letters.
Hmm.
So I would say one way to begin experiencing love, the word love, Love, in a different way, as you're saying it, begin to become more in touch with the emotions as you emanate the word love and with sound. Like if you say la, if you sing it or however it comes out, you expand that vibration and your mind begins, like you go into the state of not just words and letters,
Hmm.
but into vibration, sound, and frequency and experience. You can be in
Yeah.
nature and like say that and experience something totally different than like this room with four walls and lights.
Hmm.
So it depends how you begin to expand yourself and like your awareness and say the intention that I would like to experience what the word love means from a very expanded state. You can lay on the ground, you can hold a tree, you can be like with an animal and just play around with the sound of how you say it. And remember that all these beings are like divine beings, like Mother Earth, the rocks, the leaves, the tree, the animals, the wind. If you're looking at the sun, if you open your arms to the sky and talk to it, it allows you a new vibration and a new frequency of love where it goes beyond the words in that moment. It becomes this vibration and frequency because we're interconnected with the fabric of everything. So as you emanate the sound of love, however it wants to come from your soul, you're literally like vibrating it into everything. Everything is becoming to recognize itself as love. The sun begins to recognize itself as love, the wind, the animal, the tree. And then you begin to build a new relationship with what love means from an expanded way beyond words and letters and how the mind and the ego comprehends and speaks and thinks it's experiencing things. So there's a lot of cool ways to involve the other consciousness around you. And I'm kind of consciously channeling now just to let you know because I'm not stuttering.
Hmm.
Involve all the consciousnesses that are all like around us to help us begin to understand love or pain or hurt, whatever word that you want to use, from a very expanded way, from like a vibrational essence. Experientially, like when I'm under,
Yeah.
um, like when I channel, it's just a knowingness. Like it's a vast knowingness that it clicks. Like I don't need anymore to try to understand what love is. I know what
Hmm.
unconditional love is. It's this instant knowingness that we've all have had like throughout our life. Like, we've always had moments where we just know something, we just like know it. It doesn't matter if God or source comes down to try to explain to you what it is, you're like, dude, I already know it. Or Dudette, if it's a female. I already know this. Like, so we all have experienced those. But when we begin challenging ourselves to expand things, you literally are expanding your scope of awareness to begin to understand the infinite because the infinite continues on, right?
Yeah.
And our whole life, our whole purpose on life and like living is to simply experience everything.
Yeah.
That's what the purpose of life is, to
Yeah.
continue to experience you in the many facets, many forms, many ways, this whole multidimensionality of things. It's not over and over again because it's new every time, but
Right.
it's just like this like repetitive you, which is beautiful.
Mm. We are talking with Toni Ghazi, and you are listening to a conversation about unconditional love, as we will stick with that for the title of the program here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and it is really always a pleasure to talk with Toni Ghazi about the work that he does and the information that he has to share with us. Several thoughts came to mind. I hopefully will remember most of them as we move forward. But one of them was having to do with a section in my book where I talk about the Creator, the divine, however each individual chooses. And from the ancient wisdom teachings, going back to language, and the ancient wisdom teachings from all different languages, they speak of the Creator as love. And that in the beginning, we'll just say there was nothing but the Creator. All right. Now, where the Creator came from, we're not going there. It's not really relevant to this element. Although I know there are people who ask that question. Okay, well, in the beginning was, well, what was before the beginning? You know, and so forth. But we were the Creator, as is defined in these ancient wisdom teachings, is love, but had nothing and no one to share it with. And in our limited understanding of what love is, it needs to be shared. So the Creator created everything that exists now, including the plants, the animals, us, and so forth. So now the Creator has someone to love. And being created in the image of the Creator, we are love, and in turn, we love the Creator. We were created out of love, for love, to love. And the real test of unconditional love is, from my understanding from these teachings, is that there are no conditions for receiving this love. Case in point, I talk about in choices the first house that my first wife and I bought, that we either of us bought, and I remember asking the question, "What have I done to deserve this?" Because people kept saying, "Man, you guys got a smoking deal," and the answer that came back was, "Nothing. You've done nothing to deserve this. I want you to have it. You know, you're my child and I want you to have it." So from my logical brain, the next question that came was, what do I have to do to keep it? I mean, you think about that. What if I screw up and make a mistake and da 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 da? And the answer that came back blew me away. Nothing. You don't have to do anything to keep it. You can sell it, you can build upon it, you can keep it clean, you can keep it messy. It's yours to do with what you want. We have a hard time in this human existence believing that that kind of love even exists. And especially now, as you and I are conversing here right around the holidays, you hear the phrase, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." Except that the equation of love is that unless there is a receiver, there can be no giver, and vice versa. I like to refer to that as a universal law. So let's talk a little bit about the Creator and his creation, you and I, and all of humanity, let alone all of this earth in particular. Well, we'll do our best to stay focused on here because we know there's other life in both in the universe, in the dimensions, and in all the other realms and so forth. Keeping it simple. So talk to us a little bit about this Creator that I think most all religions, all philosophies, I say, talk about, and try to help us to better understand as well as to connect and communicate with that Creator at that level.
Yeah. So look, as you were speaking, in a sense, defining or describing how the Creator, because look, like you're right, we'll never know exactly how the Creator felt, is feeling when he's in his own oneness. But as you were speaking, I could feel that it knew obviously what love is, and it was very well aware of it from the perspective that it's I am all. That I'm the only one. However, that's felt from its perspective. It understood very well what love is because it was love. I mean, you are love. How can you not understand that, like that frequency of who you actually are? Because out of love came out of, or out of love came all of these creations. But I feel that he allowed us the opportunity to experience his love, the way that he sees it from our perspective as these small separate souls of the one. But through that, it's also allowing itself to experience our love. So we're feeding the information to it, him, her, all the time. So he, she, it is experiencing love from even a grander perspective than it ever realized as the one when it was the one. Through our experiences. So What a beautiful expansion that has created elaborately for its own self to split itself into all these pieces, to allow each being from the illusion of like separation to experience love, an expanded way of love.
Hmm.
Um, but also love, I feel because it like came in through my mind like three or four times. Also, love like comes in many different ways. Honoring people's journey is love,
Hmm.
right? Like our mind has been so conditioned and trained to understand, to see love as, oh, like caressing somebody, or like being there for somebody, or like romantic love, or the love we see in movies, the one aspect of what love is. But true unconditional love is witnessing war, for example. And I'm going to talk about some very sensitive subjects. Witnessing like a perpetrator, witnessing victimhood with unconditional love. That's where you expand your idea of love from the conditioned way that we've been conditioned to understand what love is.
Hmm.
To honor someone's journey, to see those beings as truly divine beings, as part of Source, that have come to Earth to play out that role, for them to expand what love is between them, perpetrator and the victim. But us as the observer on the outside, to witness that with unconditional love, to allow them to play out their own role, for this perpetrator to learn his own self through his actions, this like victim, a hood person, to learn his or her own self from its own creation, but them together as co-creators to learn from each other, and us as observers from the outside to witness and stretch our idea of love, is another way to experience unconditional love that will break your paradigm, that will push your limits, that will push buttons. What do you mean? Like this, So unconditional love, when you go deep, like in it, is beyond the like surface level of love that we were taught,
Yeah.
like what it is. Honoring these beings' journeys, honoring the experience itself, because it's all divine to begin with. Um, Hopefully, I didn't veer off too much
No.
from your question, and I forgot what your question is now.
No,
Sorry,
you've
I went
addressed it.
into the ether.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. You addressed it quite well. But you also brought up something too, for the second time, that I want to touch upon. We were created in the image of the Creator. Now, here's for me an observational paradox, because we have a big problem with referring to the Creator as whether it's a he or a she or an it or a they and so forth. So then I thought, well, wait a minute. The Creator must have one, I'm going to use the word form. At least I'd like to think so, unless the Creator is a changeling, which is possible. Well, if we, the population of this planet, were created in the image of the Creator, why are there two sexes? And then, if we were created in the image of the Creator, setting aside the controversies, ladies and gentlemen, we have people on this planet who find their love and happiness with a person of the same sex. All right. Let alone different colors. And then take it to the next level, because I think I mentioned this in our last conversation, how there's sort of been a progression over the last several hundred years or more in terms of the acceptance of the differences. And at first, initially we were dealing with, and I know we're still struggling with it, but on the whole, we have accepted that, hey, it's okay if we're different colors. That's fine. I mean, you're a wonderful person. You're unique because you're a different color than me, a different shade, what have you. Then we have begun the process, and I know we're still in it, of dealing with this issue of people who enjoy a relationship with that of the same sex. We're starting to get over that a little bit. And now the next step is those people who do not feel comfortable in the gender body that they came into this world with. And oh my goodness, there is a big brouhaha over all of that. But I think that there will come a point in time when we will eventually, again, begin the process of accepting people in that regard. And the way I look at that, by the way, is the same thing with cosmetic surgery. I used to have a real problem with people getting cosmetic surgery. It's like, come on, what are you doing? It has nothing to do with religion or anything of that nature. It's like, that's how you were born. You need to learn to accept yourself the way you are with, your nose is big or smaller and this and that, whatever other part of the body, and you want to change it. And then I began realizing that they don't feel comfortable. They are not happy people. And so then they go have this procedure. And guess what? Though it may be based upon a superficial attribute, inside they now feel as though they really do belong. They fit within themselves. They feel comfortable in their own skin. So that's the perspective that I put this issue of the whole transgender conversation. And I don't know what the next step is. Maybe the next step is that there will be those of us who will basically say, none of this matters. None of this is relevant. It's not right or wrong. It's just not relevant to the essence of who and what I truly am, that infinite soul or spirit that resides within this body, just as that infinite soul or spirit that resides in your body, Tony.
Yes.
And what's interesting is those same ancient wisdom teachings talk an awful lot about that and about what is important. And this world, though this is where we live, so there is that level of importance, in the grand scheme of things, it's not. I mean, is any of what we're going to be doing here right now, this moment, really going to matter in 1,000, 10,000, a million, a billion years from now? I don't think so. Other than to say, while we're here, we're doing the best we can to show kindness, show love, and so forth. Talk to us about coming to grips with, as a society, let alone as individuals, with all of those different differences that we have progressively moved through. And as I said, I don't know what the next level is, but there's going to be one, because we always seem to find differences that make a difference.
Yeah.
Talk to us.
Thank you. You began by asking the general question, we don't know if God is a he or a she or has gender. You absolutely right. Creation has no gender, because in reality, it's all of it. So yes, it is all the genders, but yet it's not subscribing to me being one gender. It doesn't see its own self, because gender is really polarity, the good, the bad, the he, the she, the male, the me. It just allows contrast, and that's part of expansion. That's part of us becoming more enlightened. That's part of us becoming the infinite. Because what is the infinite? I know within myself what infinite, and I comprehend it beyond the intellect, because I felt it. I'm all the options creation can ever create.
Yeah.
And how else can we? And look, people ask, right? What's the purpose of life again? Oh, it's to experience all. All means infinity, and infinity doesn't end. And every shade, every color, every possibility, every probability, every of the everys is our role in creation. Because how else can you feel, experience, be the all if you aren't the all, and you're becoming the all and living the all? So I'll give you one example. So I'm gay. Right, but that's irrelevant. I have a husband, and I just came back from Mexico. We went to Teotihuacan, Mexico for a week, for 12 women, and the retreat was called find the power within, or something like that. But also there was a subsurface of bring out the goddess within, embrace the the godliness within you, the infinite power that you are, the pure divine. I was the only man that was invited by this medicine woman that held the retreat, and I helped her, and like she asked me like to be with her and hold space with the women. And I was invited about a month ago, and of course I accepted. It's an absolute honor, like for me, like to hold space with her, like this medicine woman. And like the next day, I like woke up in the middle of the night, going like, "Oh my God, these women are opening up their hearts for me to experience and hold space for them through the healing." There's a lot of stuff that we go through. And why did they invite me? I'm a freaking man, right? Like regardless if I was gay or not, right? That has, Um, and I heard myself say, if you preach, in a sense, although I don't preach, I just bring messages through. If you preach that you're the creator, if you preach that you're the infinite, then step into what it means to be a goddess. If you know me very well, I don't hold back and I try everything. And the more that I become spiritual, the more I really, really like challenge my own psyche and my own comfortability of who I am. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go buy dresses. I've never bought a dress in my life. I don't know how to, how to do the sizes.
Mm-hmm.
I bought all kinds of things, and I'm gonna show you one picture. I had 8 dresses, all kinds of accoutrements, beautiful stuff. I know nothing about women, but like my friend helped me, and like this is one picture, and I just want to show you audience of this dress that came from Indonesia, and all of these
Mm.
gold stuff or whatever to embody what a goddess means. And this is not for me to say, oh, look, I'm dressed like a woman. There was no gender in this. What I realized, and I'm walking at the airport with this outfit, which is something I've never done in my life, all around Mexico with like many outfits. And what I realized is the energy that I was in is to allow myself the honor and the privilege to be the creator with no gender. Like, I didn't feel less of a man one bit. I still was Tony, I still was the man, but yet I was this artistic figure of creation. And the reception that I received, and I mean, there are thousands of people at these pyramids that we went to. I mean, thousands. Everybody was in awe in a sense, or was well like received, even like straight men. And I say like the word straight man because some straight men would look and would feel kind of weird, because in like their mind, I don't know what they're imagining, but it was a beautiful reception of. And it's purely simply that I just carried myself as like the creator. It's just art that I'm experiencing. And I wasn't flailing around like a woman or anything of that sort. And even if I was, it would not have mattered. But just the energy of honoring and respecting this idea of what a goddess means in our very limited perspective of how we think, it was my way of honoring this new version of me that like somewhere like within the ether, within part of creation is living that aspect. It was the most beautiful, humbling experience that I've ever been through. The reception was beyond what I have imagined. And you can see the spark in people's eyes, and I'm getting chills. You can see the light in people's eyes. Wow, I can step out of my boundaries and be whatever I want. It has nothing to do with the fact that this man, Tony, has put this dress, as a woman. It's just this permission slip of, wow, he broke the paradigm and he pushed his boundaries to be whatever he wants to be today. It gave them the hope and like the courage. Wow, I'm not just this label as a woman, or I'm Mexican, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I'm an architect. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So this was my experience of honoring what I say and feel as I am the infinite. And look, my nails, like, right, like this began, I
Mm-hmm.
like began this journey about a month and a half ago. And I think the last time when I was on you, I had just began doing it. Again, it has nothing to do with being gay or woman or nails. It's just, if I say that I'm creation, I'm the infinite, the only way that I can expand myself and experience what infinite is to allow myself to be all. And
Mm-hmm.
who knows? This may stop in a month, and like these dresses, I may never ever wear again. But in that moment, in that week, I allowed myself to be part of the infinite.
Yeah.
And this is where I feel, and then like we go back to the idea of gay and transgendered and all the other things, right? Um, all of these are allowing us the opportunity to begin to remember that we are more than Adam and Eve, which is a falsehood to begin with. And
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna go there. That's another episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's like all been created to keep it
Yeah.
within that paradigm of he and she and only, Look, if you go like into the oceans of the world or into the animal like kingdom, you'll begin to see a lot more colorful ways of existing and being.
Hmm.
So all of that shift that's happening, and for the K aspect, the transgender or whatever, and whatever else new that will come up that we don't know, that is coming up, it's a reflection to our humanity on how we're stretching our paradigm of the infinite.
Mm.
Is again, I go back to the very simple concept. If you are to experience yourself as the infinite and all, how else can you become the all if you don't become the pieces of the
Mhm.
all?
Yeah.
And it all begins gradually. So it's a beautiful reflection to us on where we're heading and how expanded and receptive we are. Because if our humanity and our consciousness as a collective of humans isn't open to such an idea, that reflection would not have appeared.
Mm.
It's a
Mm.
barometer for who we are within the consciousness, how expanding we are becoming, that all these things are reflecting back to us, that you're ready to begin to see yourself as more than a man or a woman or a gender or transgender or whatever. All these labels are just labels of separation, of limitation. You're beginning to see yourself as the unlimited nature, beautiful, colorful being that you are, with no labels, and just be and experience the beauty of everything. And when you
Yeah.
speak from that perspective, I want to experience the beauty of my infiniteness. If I am the God and I'm all of it, I want to know who I am. Who in the hell am I? I want to experience every freaking part of it.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
includes pain, that includes pleasure, that includes all the spectrum of the good, the evil, the bad. It's
Hmm.
just experiential. And that's how we expand.
Yeah. Yeah. Toni
And
Ghazi
there's
is my guest, and we are talking here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, along with Toni Ghazi. And, Toni, you've raised an interesting point and perspective on this because with all of these differences, we'll use that term, and we think about the Creator, that we are created in the image thereof. The one thought that flashed through my mind, because I've remembered this from biology class. I don't remember if it was grade school or high school, where they talked about this was, I think, in the sex education department. They talked about where the egg and the sperm eventually come together. The sperm enters the egg membrane and so forth, and the fertilization begins. And one of the things that they said that biology, that science has, I guess, proven is that, and I don't know how long this lasts, but shortly after the fertilization by, amazingly, one out of, I don't know, a billion sperm cells fertilizes that egg, the gender, based upon the chromosomes at that time, is female. So then this question comes up. Okay, if we are created in the image and likeness of the Creator, then the Creator must be female. Because, yeah, a big smile, because of that. But then something goes horribly wrong, and another chromosome is added, an X or a Y, and then the gender is defined for the rest of that individual's existence on the planet. But they started out as female. Now, that is not a belief, that is an observation based upon science that shared with me when I was in school in the 60s and early 70s, when education was still a good thing. And I still think education is a good thing, no matter how bad people claim that it is. But, that was a thought that came to me. Okay, then that must mean that the Creator is female. But then if you expand out and you go into the years and you see the differences that we've just been talking about, and you think about it, then God or the Creator has no race, has no color, has no gender, has none of the differences that we equate with one another. Because, as you just stated, God or the Creator is none of these things and all of these things. And and again, it goes back to this whole issue of unconditional love we've been talking about on this program, that we can unconditionally love someone, accept them, don't tolerate anyone. There's judgment in tolerating. There is no judgment in acceptance. Accepting one another, i.e., you have every right to be here on this planet, as do I. And I may not like what you do, but what you do is not who you are or what you are, if you will. So it actually helps to expand a little bit more on this concept and understanding of what unconditional love is when we start to expand our understanding of who and what the creator is. I really find it fascinating how people of certain philosophical bents, they have this duality, this judgment, and I understand why they do. I did for a long time. And it's not that I don't see male and female physical bodies. And it's not that I don't see the white and the black and the brown and the yellow and the red and so forth colors of skin, although some of those colors don't really exist. We've sort of taken liberties there. But nonetheless, the different shades, if you will. And when we begin to open up our minds a little bit and our hearts in that regard, once again, none of that is bad, good or bad. It's just irrelevant. It's just irrelevant. Go ahead and expand on that if you would, or expound, if you will, from your perspective or that of that many-factored council that you have access to all the time.
I want to go back to the feminine energy, and I want to speak about the womb of creation, like something that I experienced at this retreat that speaks directly to what you said. So it's ironic you even brought that up.
Mm.
But the idea of us beginning to see each other from the different colors, from the different sexes, different like shades of whatever, allows us the opportunity to unconditionally love all. So that act, that discovery, those new shades of colors that are coming out, transvestite, transgendered, I don't know if you're black, Asian, all these things, all the variations of who we are and are becoming and evolving, allows us the opportunity to understand what unconditional love is. Because when you push yourself to stretch the boundaries of what unconditional love is, you need to have a contrast that's quite stark for you to be pushed to become unconditionally loving too. So it's a beautiful, and please forgive me because my nose is running, but it's okay. We're all humans and nose run.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I went blank for a moment, so I'm going to get back to my heart. Yeah, we'll go to the woman creation because I wanted to say something else that's gone. So I was in Mexico, and like part of the whole retreat, we did plant medicine, and when I was, in that space, I was transported to what I experienced was the womb of creation.
Mm.
And like that's where the feminine aspect kind of comes in because our minds, again, because we're limited, we think like you have to have a female and a male to create. Creation is not gender, and creation can just manifest whatever it wants without the need for a sperm or an egg or whatever. That's our limited version of our reality to experience our limitation. But like the feminine energy of like creation is very important. The creator, the place of birth, like the birthing of humanity or of trees or of beings or of consciousness. But in it, like what I experienced was I was in this placenta and I wasn't even like a being. I was the placenta. I was the womb itself, but yet I was the creator. Yet I was a being in it. There's all these awarenesses at once. but the breath was so key, and this the cadence and the speed of the breath, like the slowness, how it would go. And it's hard to recreate, but it was just this so slow, almost like this heartbeat of like creation at a very slow pace. There's no pressure of time. There's no rush to like breathe longer. It was a beautiful moment of feeling myself as the creator within my own womb of creation that felt divine feminine, but yet not from the feminine aspect of gender. It was the most beautiful essence ever. But to go back to your point, in our physicality and in our humanity, because we chose to live this like life of limitation and of separation and of polarity and of judgment, a lot of men like these days, and I'll say straight men or men, it doesn't matter if it's straight or gay or between or whatever, but like men that aren't in touch with the feminine aspect. And the idea of feminine aspect doesn't mean you have to do your nails or wear a dress, or it's not from the limited version of who we are, but the aspect of creatorship within you as a creator, the aspect of you able to birth your own creation, birth your own feeling, birth your own experiences, birth your own choices. We're all birthing. What is, I mean, like when we create or imagine things or think, or, I did this, or I built this house, or I created this company, or I created this drawing as a man, what are you doing? You're birthing these ideas to
Mm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just coming right now because I've never spoken from that perspective. We are like birthing these creations. So like we're going to begin seeing as humanity rises like into consciousness, that men or women even, who aren't in touch with the birthing aspect of their own creatorship, are going to become more in touch with it and realize that they are birthing every day their own breath, their own sound, everything else. There's the aspect of creation within their own self that is unlimited in nature and encompasses all genders. Because look, like who knows, on another planet, look, on Mother Earth, we know of a male and female. On some other planet, you can have 20 genders that we cannot
Mm.
even comprehend or fathom. You know
Right.
what I mean? In terms of genders. So this is how we begin becoming more in touch with our extended and stretched version of who we are, when we begin exploring more than what our society, our government, our TV, our education system would. By the way, that's another episode. We need to talk about that. I mean, there's all kinds of episodes. It's
Yes.
all built
Yes.
upon limitation. Can
Mm-hmm.
you imagine like a world where we have schools where our kids can run free and do anything they desire and know that they are gods, know that they are angels, know that they are interconnected, know that they are one, know that when they see the next child in their class, they're not separate than them, that they are them, the love, the unconditional creation, the allowing the heart to lead. Can you imagine like what a world we have? What a beautiful generation of just birthing ideas over and over again and allowing everyone to experience more of who they are. Because as I witness you creating like your podcast, as I witness you asking your questions, as I witness your audience commenting, I am witnessing your birthing of your own creation, their birthing of their own creation. But when we uninhibit ourselves and allow ourselves to become the all, can you imagine the witnessing of what the all will show up
Mm.
from all these beautiful beings? Freaking magical. I want to use another word that uses the F, but I'll keep it clean. Freaking magical. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even that F word, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's creation in itself.
Yeah.
So this is how we break the old paradigms and stretch ourselves and put ourselves in uncomfortable, what seems to be uncomfortable situation, when in reality you are being yourself every moment of the day. You are being the creator. Because if the creator is infinite, then you're all of it.
Mm.
You can't say that the creator is this, and that, but it's not the F word. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing the F word as an example. The
Sure.
creator is also the F word, and all these
Mm-hmm.
other words that we don't even want to say, and all these other
Right.
experiences. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah.
this is where the understanding of the infinite, you challenge yourself with. Do you really understand what infinity is? Do you
Yeah.
really understand truly beyond the mind what I am an infinite being and what unconditional love is?
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting to talk about this, and the flash that went through my mind was something that we touched upon earlier in the program, and I want to touch upon it now because it speaks to this concept of understanding. I personally love the word grok from Stranger in a Strange Land, and I define it more as assimilating it into every subatomic particle of one's being
Yeah.
to understand, to know that you know that you know this. It's not a belief, it's not an awareness. It is literally, you can't escape it because that's what is.
Yeah.
And it is for me or for you. Having to do with language, we touched upon this a little bit. In what little I know of the Jewish language, the alphabet, each letter has its own legend, kind of like a map. You'll see down in the lower corner, you see all the symbols on the map. And then in the corner, it shows you what each of those symbols or those colored lines or dotted lines or what have you mean, what they're talking about. Well, each letter of the alphabet, the 22 characters, has that kind of a legend, a sound, a number, even a story. And you start putting those letters together into words. You still have a legend, but it's new because of the combination. Put those words together in sentences, a new legend. Sentences into paragraphs, into chapters, into a book. But the moment you translate it into another language, you lose the legend. Now, I am very curious, and I will share this because I'm excited about this thing. I am a member of a cast who is creating the dramatized audio version of the Quran.
Okay.
It's going to be available on Audible. Now, I'm going to have, I want to say, the executive director. I don't know if he's the casting director, but obviously, I have invited him to be a member, a guest on this program because I want to talk about that project. But I'm excited about being a part of this project because it is introducing me to new people, to new experiences. I love doing character voices and all of that, but I've also been very interested in the philosophy that Muhammad brought to this world. Is it 1500 years ago, roughly? Was it 500 or was it 1500? I can't remember. But needless to say,
A long time. I
long
want to
time
say
ago.
1500. Yeah, 1500.
A long
500
time
seems
ago,
too
but
young.
not a galaxy far away. It was here. And I've always been curious as to what is really being said. So this intrigues me. So I want to ask you, from that perspective, from what you know of the other one of the other languages that you speak, or even any of the other languages, do they have that kind of a background that, say, the Hebrew language? Because the American language, the English language, I should say, with the 26 characters, it's just characters. They, as far as I know, they don't mean anything. They don't have a tone. Now, maybe someone has created all of that, but initially it's just we make words, sentences, and so forth, and this is what we say. Some of these other languages that you speak have that lineage, that legend behind them?
Listen, I'm so happy that you asked that question. Again, you always ask amazing questions that are like out of not left field, but out of creationist field, I'm going to say. They're amazing. So I speak 5 or 6 languages. So I speak Arabic, French, English. I speak Spanish. I know a little Mandarin. I love Korean, and I can learn languages like this. My mind just love it. If I wasn't doing channeling, if I wasn't doing real estate, I probably would learn 1,000 languages, and I would just absorb it. You don't know how many times I have heard like a TV show and I heard somebody like translate something and I'm going like, no, that's not what they said. They missed a specific word or they missed the emotions behind a word. Like it drives me nuts because I'm like, you're not conveying exactly what is meant to like,
Hmm.
I'm like what is said. So yes, in Arabic, like we have all kinds of I guess I would call accents
Hmm.
ah e like all these different sounds. And as you're speaking about it, I've never thought of it or seen like language from the spiritual language. But as you're speaking, what came like to my mind is all the accents that we have allow a different vibration and frequency for the word that expands that letter
Hmm.
into consciousness. Like the same with Mandarin, right? Like Mandarin have um, they have four. like
Hmm.
like different sounds, and they all mean different things. And I'm not surprised that Hebrew, right? Because Lebanon and like Israel are like right next to each other, right? Like we're borders,
Right.
have the same base with like the language. And I'm not even surprised that the U.S. language or like America or American has kind of left that ancient like vibrational way of speaking, and it has become very like character based with less emotions. Because, and I think I said this earlier, like when we say the word love, like in Arabic, there's a lot of emotions with the word itself that when I say love in English, I don't feel as much as in Arabic. It's already intertwined in our mind. Um, but I feel like the English language was designed, like in a sense, to keep you away from um, the like spiritual aspect of speech,
Hmm.
right? Because it is based on a limited version of what language is that goes beyond that.
Yeah.
Um, so it's very interesting that you even picked up on that. That's really, really a very cool question. Um,
Now, more from an intellectual perspective, however, let me ask you,
sure.
uh, how many, by comparison to English or Hebrew, how many characters, aside from the accents, how many characters are there in the, and I know there are different versions of Arabic and so forth. You know, there's Farsi and so on and so forth. Different tribes speak different, I guess, derivations. But in general, how many characters are there?
Oh my goodness. I should know this. I haven't, oh God. At least 20 or
Hmm.
in the 26 like 30 range.
Okay.
um, but Arabic is like the same language, like you just have different dialects or like
Right.
different words that mean different things, but it's all the same
Right.
alphabet.
Right.
um,
And
yeah.
then there's another aspect too when we start talking about music. European music has eight notes, and then you have the sharps, the flats, and so forth. Whereas if you start talking about the Indian music, the ragas, or for that matter, I've even heard that Arabic music, if you've ever heard, for example, the call to prayer, for example, I mean, the range of notes that are used is more than eight. And we're not talking sharps and flats here, which I find fascinating. So there's so much diversity out there, so much to become aware of, to learn about, to become, to experience for that matter, that I would encourage people to do that. That's, to me, that is. I met this one beautiful Italian young lady. She was here on a student visa. She was going to UCSB, and she said that when she was in grade school and high school, she learned, though her main language was Italian, she learned, I think, four or five other languages, including English. I think Spanish was one, obviously Italian. I think German was another. Chinese. When she came to America to study, she learned Chinese. Maybe it was Mandarin or one of the other dialects. So now she's like six, seven, eight different languages. I can only imagine the kind of mind that this young woman has. Knowing these different languages has got to expand one's consciousness and the rewriting the synapses, the neural network. A matter of fact, I interviewed a gentleman regarding Sanskrit, and that they were teaching Sanskrit in England, in the schools in England, not for the purposes of resurrecting, quote unquote, a dead language, but for the purposes of rewriting the neural pathways of the brain to expand the the capacity of the brain to process information, to maybe to logically and critically think, and so on and so forth. And I thought, wow, I had never thought of using a language in terms of teaching it to do that. I mean, my experiences with learning English was to learn how to communicate, you which again is a good thing. So
Yes.
I just find that. our educational system, as good as it might be, could be so much better, because if we would just incorporate some of these things, but there are those who just don't think that, well, that's not really a valuable attribute. How are you going to make money learning French or Arabic or Vietnamese, or and so on and so on and so on? It's like you have no idea what the
Yeah.
sciences are showing us about learning some of these things.
Yes.
It's just incredible.
Yeah, and then there's nothing wrong with our educational system, right? I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying it is limited and it could be a lot better to where we
Hmm.
can expand, right? That's what I'm really saying.
Hmm.
But like to your point, which I didn't know like about those studies, but it makes psychological sense to me and like energetical sense very easily. I'm like, of course it does,
Yeah.
duh.
Yeah.
Because listen, and you know what I mean? And it's not about the idea of you need to know the whole language. It has
No.
nothing to do with knowing the
Mm-mm.
complete
Mm-mm.
words of that language. It's about connecting with the vibration and frequency of
Hmm.
such a language. Because remember, within the characters in the language, you have lineages of years and years and years of other spirits that have spoken it forever. So even if you learn like one or two words in any language that you love, the word love, let's say,
Hmm.
if you just challenge yourself to learn it in English and French, well, you know English, French, and all these other words,
Hmm.
just for the hell of experiencing how it's said, and then like listen to other people how they say it, and do your own spin on it. Like I love to sing with my songs or with my words, and I love to make up words. By the way, I make them up like with so much conviction. I don't care what the world says. I know what I'm saying, and you understand what I'm saying is just you haven't heard of it before, but it makes logical sense. Why hasn't people,
Hmm.
explained
Hmm.
it before? But when you begin playing around and experiencing with vibration and frequency of the word of love or whatever other word, it allows you access to that lineage of that whole civilization that has spoken that word, because there's so much energy, spiritually speaking, embedded in such a language, and it allows you to
Yeah.
connect with a version of you that have lived it. It's not
Mm.
about you knowing the whole language, speaking it fluently. That's irrelevant. That's our human mind, as a limited society. Oh, like learn this language or like that language. But going beyond and speaking from spirit, essence, and vibration, it
Hmm.
gives you access to the infinite. So play around. I encourage your audience, pick a word every other day or every month and play
Yeah.
around with it and sing it. Like
Hmm.
amore, love in Italian. Like, why not? Speak like this. Play with, do it. Like
Absolutely.
live. It's all vibration, and you bring a whole culture with you. You bring all these experiences, these like lineages that are embedded in language into your heart. So there's all kinds of ways as creators, and I go
Yeah.
back to that word, you can bring magic into your life and allow yourself access to the wisdom that's within everything. So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more, and it's
yeah,
all that aspect of as a kid growing up, many kids heard, why don't you go to the library, read a book, and broaden your horizons? Well, there you go. And one of the things that I try to do now, after an interview I did not long ago with a gentleman, Dennis Henson, who wrote a book called Real Impact. And in it are stories about people who faced the challenges in their lives and overcame them to create incredible stuff. For example, one of the stories, just very briefly, was I think it was the 1984 U.S. Olympic hockey team that beat the Russians. And that wonderful phrase from the announcer, Al Michaels, who said, "Do you believe in miracles?" Because they beat the Russians. They weren't expected to either. And that's just one of many of the stories. And there are poems, and then there are quotes. And the one thing he says, and this goes to your point about, for example, finding a word in another language and just using it all day long. For example, read. Read something every day, whether it's from Real Impact or any other book for that matter. And it doesn't have to be for long, 5, 10, 15 minutes if you can, that kind of thing. Uh, just to put something new into the mix. And that's what we encourage people to do too, Tony, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and we're talking with Toni Ghazi, and we're going to have to wrap things up once again, Tony, but I have come up with the next conversation you and I are going to have for the new year 2025. And we're going to talk about not just beginnings, beginning something new, beginnings. And in a manner of speaking, I guess you could say that anytime you begin something, it's a new beginning. But maybe you've done that before, but it's been a long time, so you're going to begin again. And that's fine too. But I think that's what we'll talk about because we'll be beginning a new year. And it's the second half. It's the beginning, in my observations, the beginning of the second half of the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s. And we'll get into that next time. And I'm looking forward to having you on and having you here this time. Thank you so much for being here.
Richard, thank you so much for the honor and the privilege. And I just want to say, because the praying mantises are saying this too, remember that every day is Christmas, every day is New Year's, every day is a holiday. Why wait for one freaking day to experience joy and experience feeling generous or experience feeling whatever you feel during those times? Every second of the day is your opportunity to be. Like my husband always gets crazy because like, oh, are we gonna do presents? I'm like, it doesn't matter to me because I'm like, every day is a holiday. Like, I'm not kidding. Every day is a freaking holiday. Like
Yeah.
when you begin living from that vibration, you create magic. But then sure, on the day of the holiday, then the whole world is celebrating like with you.
Sure.
So don't wait. Why wait?
Don't wait. Yeah,
Create.
exactly. I look at these programs that way too. Each guest, each program is like opening a Christmas present, and it's a wonderful thing. Toni, thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank you for also listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. A reminder that we are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and then Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com, with podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, and we're on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. I hope you'll subscribe and click notification. And I also hope that you will go to Amazon.com and pick up a copy of Choices, 5 Steps for Life. It is available in 3 different formats, soon to be 4. And we also ask that if you can financially support the work we are doing here, you'd like to be a part of what we're doing, we have a PayPal account, which is also there for your security as well as ours. And there are 2 links, one to each of those, on the homepage at the top of richarddugan.com. We also ask that you take time to spend time in that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice, which is another program we'll do. Maybe we'll have that one for February. We'll talk about that as one of those beginning things for January, but maybe we'll have that in February. And until our next, oh, by the way, the thought just came to me, gee, you didn't ask him those 3 questions. Oh my goodness, those 3 final questions that I ask all of my guests. And I remember someone challenging me on that saying, hey, that program I heard the other day, you didn't ask them those questions. Well, they've been on 4 or 5 times. Well, what the heck? All right, we'll go ahead and ask those questions. So, Toni.
Yes.
The first one is, who's Toni Ghazi?
A new version of me today. That's who he is. That's always evolving, ever evolving.
What gets you up in the morning?
This is going to sound so corny, but truly love. I'm not joking.
And what was your best day?
Oh my God, every day is a good day. The day I was born, the day I realized I'm more than I actually am. Really, the day that I realized, I'm going to say it again because I'm saying it from my own mind. The day that I realized that I'm more than I thought that I was.
Once again, Toni, thank you for joining us. And I thank you for joining us here on Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.